we have corporations have unprecedented access to information telling them what is going to make us tick and do the thing that they want to do. So a lot of the book focuses on this idea of the scarcity loop, which is this 3-part behavior loop that I kind of stumbled upon while investigating slot machines in Las Vegas. I went into like this casino laboratory. It's literally like this working casino that's funded by big tech companies in the casino industry.
Yeah, I loved that part of the book where that guy explains how this is making it addictive.
Yeah. And so it's 3 parts basically. It's opportunity, unpredictable rewards, quick repeatability. So I'll give you the analogy of a slot machine. Opportunity, you have an opportunity to win money. Unpredictable rewards, you know if you repeat the behavior, at some point you will get something that's valuable, right? But you don't know when, you don't know how valuable it's going to be. So with a slot machine, it's like you play the game, you could win some money, but on any given game you could lose. You could win a little, or you could win enough that you're like, I'm retiring. And then third is quick repeatability. You can immediately repeat the behavior. Yeah. Just keep playing the game. When that system got really dialed in slot machines, this was about the 80s, casino revenues just exploded. Slot machines went from making not too much to making up 85% of casino revenues. And so they now make more money. This is a crazy stat, and it makes me sad because I'm an author. Slot machines make more money than books, movies, and music combined.
Jeez, that's why they're in gas stations.
That's why they're in gas stations, in Vegas, like grocery stores, airport. When I get off my flight today in Vegas.
They're everywhere.
Everywhere. But what happened is that a lot of tech companies saw what was happening in Vegas. They go, ooh, people will sit and do this thing over and over and over, even though everyone knows the house always wins. Right? You play a slot machine long enough, you're going to lose. It's just math, right? That's how the numbers work. So this system, which I call the scarcity loop, it gets put in things like social media. It's really what makes social media work, right? You got an opportunity for whether it be likes or some piece of information that makes you feel something, but you don't know when you're going to get it. Right? If you post,
it's a gamble.
You could get 2 likes and you're like, oh man, that sucks. People don't like me. Or you could go viral and oh my gosh, this is the most amazing thing ever. You check and recheck all day.
And then you got the infinite scroll.
Just keep going. Yep. It's being put in different financial apps. It's what makes dating apps work. I've heard from the guy who invented Tinder. And he's literally like, yeah, you just like make it a slot machine. That's why it took off. All these different places. Sports betting, I mean, all over. And kind of anywhere you put this thing, I think it does a really good job at grabbing people's attention, holding it, and getting them to make decisions that they perhaps otherwise wouldn't. So it's not necessarily a good or bad thing. It's just depending on where it gets placed and how it gets used. And I think today it's just getting used in ways that lead people to do things that they might regret.
So scary because it's everywhere. And one thing that I've noticed is it is addictive and a problem from my life experience, regardless of your age. Because I went through a thought process for a while. This was with my daughter. So I have an 11-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old daughter. And I'm kind of like hyper vigilant on what's going to happen with how much tech we let them use and don't use, and how my wife and I are managing that. And one thing that has been eye-opening to me this year is I'm always kind of overwatching that to the best of my ability with my daughters. And you would think that like I need to talk to them about that, phones and the scarcity loop with them, and what's going to happen at school with other friends with phones, what's going to happen with gymnastics with other phones. But one thing that's been really interesting to me this year is when like the grandparents come over, they're scrolling more than like we are and our friends are, because we kind of are living in this world. And so I'm having to talk to like my parents about like, hey, you can't just let my kids be on your phone all the time, because we don't really do that at our house. and now it's driving me nuts because you're here and they're on your phone. And then, so that has been like this really weird, awkward conversation because you have to tell your dad, hey, or your mom, we don't want our kids on your phone. And so that's been awkward. And then I've found that like they're on it all the time too, and like on Facebook or something. And so this addiction, because a lot of time in mainstream media, it's talked about like younger people and kids and how we're going to protect them from the scarcity loop on technology. But it has been clear to me over the last year that it is overwhelming addictive regardless of your age, just like any other addiction.
Totally. Yeah, I think it absolutely is. And you look at the numbers and they're all pretty much similar for a lot of different age groups. And you're seeing the numbers creep up in older people. And I think what the big question why we focus on younger people though is that younger people are more at risk of addiction. They have a harder time framing the consequences, or rather, I guess I would say the stakes of something like social media, right? So if I'm 37, if someone goes on my Instagram page and they leave a comment that says, you look like an idiot, I can just go, okay, But if you're 17, that actually affects people. And there's a reason the kids' brains basically change from puberty to about 25, but especially from that like 13 to 18, 20. And at this point in a person's life, a lot of things are happening. One of the big important things is that being social and getting a social network becomes more important than any other point in a person's life. They're also more sensitive to social cues. So you put them on a platform that is social and it literally quantifies, it puts a score on how cool you are. That's not a good thing.
That's dangerous.
It's not a good thing. Yeah. And this is the same for exposure to any potentially addictive behavior or substance. So here's a good stat. If a person starts drinking has their first drink at 14, they have a 50-50 shot at becoming an alcoholic. If they wait until 21, it's only 10%. And that's simply
big.
It's big. And it's simply because the way the brain changes, it's figuring out social stuff. It's also figuring out, okay, how do I find sort of like comfort and escape? How do I deal with my problems? And a lot of addictive behaviors and substances, whether it be escaping into the cell phone anytime you feel bad, whether it be, I have a drink or something, you're figuring that out at those ages. So if you can delay a lot of the stuff that does have a higher likelihood of being addictive, phones to a certain extent, depending on what the app is, substances, things like that, that's probably a good thing.